given to just reach into my study and grab a couple of books. I like to have books around, so I grab any I can. And I just saw this title. It was by a Catholic priest, actually, from the Warri Diocese. The title of the book is Why Nigeria is Not Working, the Predicament and the Promise. I thought it was important to note that there is a consensus on the fact that Nigeria is not working, but Nigeria can work and should work. And the essence of my presentation is to essentially point to some of these issues. I want to begin by essentially, I'm not sure what direction to point this to now. Oh, I think it's to there. You know, by making the point that if you look at how many Nigerians today are talking about restructuring, you know, it seems like a life or death matter, or as we used to say when we were kids, a life and death matter. But when you look at the emotions that are expressed and you can detach yourself and watch it, you'll probably see that there's no better presentation on Broadway or in Nollywood or perhaps the West End in London that Nigerians discussing this matter. I say this with a great sense of, if you will, caution to myself, because I saw two statesmen, outstanding statesmen of repute and longevity, if you will, discussing this matter, one from Kano, another from Ibadan, and they were so passionate. And in the end, I was trying to figure out what they were saying. They were both saying exactly the same thing. And I thought, why are they quarreling over saying the same thing? But this is the nature of the subject. And in some ways, it kind of reminded me of a famous B.C. Ogumbadejo cartoon from back in the 80s. You know, in those days, there was a scarcity of rice in Nigeria. And people were desperate to get rice. The Minister of Transport became rice importation minister. And so there was a gathering to demonstrate about this matter of rice. And somebody said, we must rise now. And somebody said, did you say rice? Rice! Rice! So really, as we go through this, we need to get a sense of humor about it. I mean, let's just take a little look at this drama we're going down the path of. Let's watch the drama. We have a Tower of Babel that seems to be unfolding. And my friend Ehosa Osage has made a good point of showing how it is unfolding. You got people who are angry because they feel that they are being shortchanged in the Nigeria project. You have people who have been blessed by the rent economy who think that they're going to lose something that they were getting. You have those who have profited from the other and think, look, it's our turn now to abuse and take advantage of things. And some people are trying to prevent us from abusing as they abused. You have people who are vigorous, really vigorous, but not rigorous in the conversation. You have this whole array of positions on this matter. But the truth that I find is that part of the problem, again, I'm challenged because everybody has said a bit of what I wanted to say. Professor Osage made the point about the nature of how the Nigerian Federation emerged. I don't completely agree with him on the fact that there were no natural constituent units. Indeed, significantly, the problem of Nigeria and talking devolution, and he was so right, is the fact that Nigerian states grew by what I prefer to call fission, which he calls disaggregation, rather than the traditional way most federations have grown, which is by accretion. Indeed, part of the challenge I have with people who want to fracture Nigeria is that my dream is that if a Nigeria performed up to speed as it should perform, what would happen is that one day the people of Benin Republic will vote to become part of the Nigerian Federation. And then another day, the people of Togo will vote to become part of the Nigerian Federation. And we will have people forget that, and he mentioned the 13 colonies that started up the federation that is the United States of America, and how they went from confederation to federation, and how these quarrels over states' rights in this process gave us that famous statement by one of the people who feared a strong center, Patrick Henry, and that famous, or those famous words, "Give me liberty or give me death." Now this is the nature of the struggle of coming to this in Nigeria, because significantly most of our states emerged from a kind of fission rather than aggression. His position is absolutely right in that the center that made them happen wonders, who are these people to challenge us? And then, very importantly, the fact that these people who are challenging for a bit of the action are premised not on things they can argue or have argued coherently about, takes the discussion into the kind of drama that we see. I intend to try and show some evidence, if you will, of why there is need for us to look at the structure of the constituent units and the center, but very, very importantly, to look beyond that. Because if we think that salvation lies just in quote-unquote restructuring, as we talk, we'll find that structure can be useful. This is why I'll turn to the structure, conduct, performance paradigm in structural economics to talk to that. But ultimately, even if we reach what we at least perceive to be optimal, we will begin to see examples. And I will give examples from both ends of the spectrum, which is why I refer to the lottery effect at one end. And maybe I should just speak to it very quickly. Many of us forget that there was a time when most of the local governments in our country, in the first couple of years of our independence, were in southern Nigeria. These were things that the subnational government did. And so in the southern Nigeria, they chose to create more local governments than the northern region chose to. So there were about twice as many local governments in the south as there were in the north. Now, by the time we went through, as Sagi pointed out, Yugoslavia's experience, borrowing especially from Brazil with the Dasuki panel and all of that, and we created this third tier that was beginning to get a considerable part of the revenues that accrued to the federation. Local governments were attractive, and suddenly anybody who had power, his village became a local government. And we got to 774 local governments, and more than 500 are in what is called northern Nigeria. This has been significant flow of national resources there, but you and I know that the most poverty is still concentrated in that part of the country. So the money itself does not make you grow. And that's the point that needs to be made about all this quarreling about money. You take it to the other end, resource control. Resource control, as part of our lexicon, significantly entered public conversation in this country after a lecture that I gave in 2000, the first anniversary of Return to Civil Rule, Delta State Government lecture at PTI in Warri. That's when the word resource control gained currency. But look at what has happened to resource control. My home state, Delta, has gained significantly from flows. Look to its west and look to its east. Anambra, Edo, there's much better quality of life in both those states that get much less resource than that state. So it's not a matter of how much money you get. And this is what we should concentrate on when we look at these matters. But people are, you know, like Sagi said, you know, in this game thing, let me go even to something I was going to close with. I was speaking to this matter several years ago, and some gentleman, a senior person from the north, made a comment I found remarkable and said, you know what, when in the 60s, the federal government, federal